Whether he got his pink slip or he just wanted the extra work, we may never know the truth behind Dig Dug's decision to switch jobs in 1985. I mean, it couldn't have been out of financial need. His eponymous arcade debut became an instant classic just 3 years earlier, and frankly, Dig Dug doesn't seem like the type to just drink away his fortunes. And although swapping careers is a fairly common practice among video game protagonists, I think we can rule out peer pressure too. I mean, he wears a helmet. You can't hear anything when you wear a helmet. Whatever his reasons, it happened nonetheless. Namco's arcade rookie sensation traded his license for excavation for a practice in detonation in Dig Dug 2, a game in which employment deviation proved to be a critical miscalculation. For a little elucidation, Dig Dug should have kept his day job. Dig Dug 2 brings the famous character up to the surface, abandoning the subterranean digging that defined the original in favor of an altogether different gameplay mechanic based on fault lines. Each level is an island, and that island is populated by enemies. Clear the island of enemies and you move on to the next. I would assume the premise here is extermination, save each island, right? But given how Dig Dug goes about that business, I'd say the premise is somewhat negated. Dig Dug can kill his familiar enemies with a familiar weapon. Pukas and Figars from the original game can be defeated with Dig Dug's pump, also from the original. But that's about where the similarities end. In fact, the game encourages you to use the pump as little as possible because its main hook is to kill them simultaneously by blowing up the freaking island. Again, I guess saving the freaking island is not Dig Dug's priority. So basically, Dig Dug is like a bloodthirsty mass murderer with an utter disdain for his own safety and surroundings. I mean, he'll turn a sprawling island paradise into a tiny speck of land just to kill 1 or 2 Figars, at which point, mission accomplished. I mean, maybe he did get fired. Like, that'd be the only explanation for this kind of insatiable rage and bloodlust. But at least Dig Dug has an excuse, which is something his handlers lack. Dig Dug 2 might be an acceptably unique sequel if it were more fun, but the mechanic doesn't work as well as it would seem to promise. Blowing up chunks of the island by connecting the dots, it feels a bit clunky, especially under the duress of pursuant pukas, and it's often hard to distinguish which chunks are safe and which ones are going down. Dig Dug 2 has the fast pace and degree of challenge you'd want from an arcade classic, but especially with the NES controller, execution is the problem, and it renders what might have been a cool idea into a misguided deviation. Oh, don't get me wrong, Dig Dug 2 isn't a bad game by any means, but the problem with discussing a sequel to a classic is that it's almost impossible to analyze that sequel on its own merit. It is, after all, a sequel, and if not to sustain the successful concepts of its brand name, what is the point of a sequel? I mean, it can evolve, sure, but that's a very delicate mixture to stir. Just ask Dig Dug. I mean, have you ever tried to stir with a jackhammer?